Today, a Redditor shared a story of how they messed up by being honest at a car crash. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, today I messed up by telling my girlfriend's grandma to shut up and eat it. My girlfriend, 25-year-old female, invited me to her big family dinner and warned me in advance that her grandma is 93, hard of hearing, and loves asking people what's in the food. She told me to just smile and repeat things if needed. We were having lasagna, and Grandma kept asking, "What's this?" over and over again. Eventually, I tried to be funny and said jokingly, "Shut up and eat it, Grandma." The table went silent. Apparently, she's not that hard of hearing, and apparently, shut up is a huge deal in their family. Her mom gasped, her uncle choked on a breadstick, Grandma blinked and muttered, "Well, I never," and refused to eat another bite. I apologized profusely, but it was rough. My girlfriend didn't talk to me the entire drive home. You know, I don't know why, but I kind of relate to this on too many levels because I feel like I would try to come up with like some kind of comedic beat moment on the fly, and in all of my social anxiety awkwardness would come up with the perfect "shut up and eat it, Grandma" kind of moment like OP did. 93 and never seen lasagna before, Grandma? Then, you know, that nice teeth-clenching moment where you look around and realize nobody appreciated what just came out of your mouth. Leandries commented, "Never go into sarcasm with people you don't know really well. You'll look awkward at best, totally dumb and aggressive at worst." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy stories of how Redditors severely messed up, it would be amazing if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. Our next story is, today I messed up, 10:30 p.m., decided to print out a seemingly small document before I went to bed. Printer estimated a 30-minute print time. My professor sent over a handbook for our upcoming exam and suggested that we print it, failing to mention that it was 370 plus pages of A4 when formatted as a Word document. So far, it's taken me just over 3 hours. I've had to go upstairs to find paper twice and replace the ink cartridge partway through. It's on page 250, but I'm too committed at this point to give up. My hands are riddled with paper cuts. The cat is screaming at me because he wants to go to bed. I'm supposed to be up early tomorrow, and tonight was the night I told myself I'd fix my sleep schedule. I've heard of printers being able to smell fear and knowing when you're stressed, but I didn't realize they actively arrive to keep you awake at night also. You know, I just feel like if you get like a PDF or something and you set it up to print and you're the kind of person that doesn't notice, maybe not 370 pages, but that it's a decent sized PDF, I mean that thing has to be like at least a good chunk of megabytes. Well, then let's just say that I think it's a really good idea that OP's going to spend so much time studying that handbook. Jambo commented, "How do you not print preview or even look at the document before printing it?" BioC1 commented, "And why would you print it instead of just converting to a PDF, if not already, and view on a computer or tablet? Now you literally have to bind it because you ain't stapling that. Hole punch or big binder could work as well. A lot of work." Fun Dentist 1243 commented, "I'm a grad student and I had to pay for a real book and buy a binder for it because it was all loose leaf and hole punched. I paid a little over $100 out of pocket for a specific program only for us to get physical copies made of chapter reviews and notes from professors. We get $12 a semester for printing, and it's so annoying professors upload PDFs with the expectation we'll print ourselves before class. Lecture notes that look like Mad Libs, and we're responsible for clean copies of formula sheets." Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally dumping a ship's entire black water tank into a dry dock and running away. This actually happened to a colleague of mine, but it's too wild not to share. Let's call him David. He works in maritime software, the kind of guy who flies out to ships, installs updates, runs diagnostics, and then flies back home. Pretty routine stuff, until this one time in Italy. David was on a ship that was in dry dock. After doing the update, he was chilling alone in the control room, watching the system and poking around out of curiosity. That's when he noticed some unfamiliar signals in the interface. Now, very important context, whenever you're messing with a ship's systems during maintenance, you're supposed to switch everything to local mode. That way, nothing you do from the computer actually affects the real equipment. It's like a big safety lock. David thought it was in local mode, he did not check. So he starts clicking around to see what these mystery signals are. One of them was the control for the black water valve. For anyone unfamiliar with ship terminology, black water equals sewage. Toilets, kitchens, showers, everything. And he triggered the open valve command while the ship was in a dry dock. So the ship, now sitting in a huge empty concrete basin, proceeded to dump its entire sewage tank straight into it. The smell, according to him, was really bad. Dock workers were yelling, people were trying to figure out what just happened, everyone was gagging, an entire dry dock full of sewage. David panicked and made what he later described as the best decision in a bad situation. He packed up his laptop, grabbed his bag, and literally ran off the ship, changed his flight, flew home a day early, and told everyone he finished ahead of schedule. Nobody ever found out it was him. Everyone blamed it on a maintenance error or a valve malfunction. The ship owner ate the massive cleanup bill. David only told us this story years later over beers. You know, somebody that goes out there and does software updates and maintenance, I feel like that would be the quintessential person to see this loadout of buttons and switches and machinery and know to themselves to be better than to mess around with that, even if there is like a local setting. Gotta be fair though, if I was in his shoes and I was in this control room and there were a million switches in front of me, I would be pretty curious myself. I think just about one of the coolest things in the old school Willy Wonka movie was the elevator because there were a bunch of buttons that I wanted to press. PM Me Fancy Beer commented, "So, assuming that for an unexplained reason the black water hadn't been emptied, no one checked the maintenance or access logs? They just thought, what a weird coincidence that IT maintenance was scheduled for that day and time that the incident occurred. The IT guy is logged as boarding the ship, unless they just leave their doors unlocked with nobody home. The IT guy didn't sign out and no record he left, but thankfully we know he left the ship because he emailed after the incident saying he finished early. There's this weird mystery signal coming from the Blackwater control button. Can't find anything physically wrong with the valve or sewerage system. The maintenance changes, updates, or whatever don't seem to have been completed and/or are unstable, like someone rushed out before they finished the job. Oh well, let's not investigate the incident any further. As the ship owner, I will pay for it out of pocket and not go through my insurance, challenge the plumbing maintenance people or valve manufacturer. But our biggest priority, someone let the IT guy know all of these details about an incident he wasn't here for and wouldn't otherwise know about." W-Bird commented, "As someone who used to work on ships and yachts, I believe it. I'm guessing that some of the details are off though. There was rarely any security. In dry dock, there would be a ton of people on and around the ship and everyone has their own systems to work on. A valve usually has a single contact for control and one for signal. The signal one will be open or closed depending on the state of the valve. I'm guessing that the guy was seeing a closed signal on his panel, and the weird part was that he shouldn't have been seeing any signals. Opening a valve is usually just 24 volts across the control contact. There might be multiple systems that have control of the valve, and there are manual controls as well. Any 24 volt across the contact would open it. There are no logs on the valve. A particular system might log, but unless it's required by law, most systems don't. Mine logged DPS data but didn't log anything else. It's very much a good old boy network out there. You don't accuse a particular company without proof, and there's no proof. I doubt a ship owner is carrying insurance for accidental black water. I've been on a yacht where they accidentally opened the black water valve while coming into port. My system wasn't tied into it, so I don't know what else was, but the owner got a fine and nobody got in trouble." Our next story is, "Today I messed up by using my laptop like a boomer for 8 years. I bought a new laptop 9 years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but sometime in the early days of owning the laptop, the swipe with 2 fingers on the touchpad to scroll up and down stopped working. I couldn't find out why, it just stopped. It being a new laptop, I wasn't going to buy a new one, and I should have got it fixed on the warranty, but I don't know, I was an idiot. So for the last 8-ish years, I've been using my laptop like a boomer, moving the cursor to the scroll wheel every time I want to scroll up or down. This is bad on its own, but particularly bad considering I'm a professional tech guy who is often looking at code files that are several thousand lines long. I don't know what exactly I did last night, but this morning I accidentally touched the scroll pad with a few fingers and it scrolled. My laptop was never broken. This probably could have changed at any point in the last 6 or 7 years, and I wouldn't have noticed. I had just accepted that it didn't work. I feel high. I mean, here's the thing, when you're trying to scroll on that touchpad like a very bad ending to a very good date, and the scrolling gesture just ain't doing the job, it's gonna be understandable that you would just assume it's not working anymore. I'm willing to give OP the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming for the next week after it quit working, they probably kept trying it, it didn't work. Understandably, they gave up, worked around it, and at some point, I guess it started working again. Maybe some contact on the board got jostled around just right and it suddenly started working again, who knows? Maybe it was a weird software thing that got fixed with an update, who knows? I can only imagine though, finding out that that touchpad works again is almost like akin to when you finally get past your cold and you have that first breath out of both nostrils for the first time in a while. You know, that little, oh my god, this is what life is actually like moment. Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally turning a wholesome first date into shame. So this just happened like 3 hours ago, and I'm still trying to process what I did. Met this super sweet guy on Hinge. We've been vibing for like 2 weeks, all cute and flirty, but nothing too crazy. Finally decided to meet IRL. Plan, coffee date, casual walk, maybe a kiss if the vibe's there. Reality, chaos. We meet, it's going great, he's even cuter in person, we're laughing, walking, all those cheesy rom-com things. Then we pass by this random little park with swings and he's like, wanna hop on? I'm thinking, sure, let's be quirky. Big mistake. I go full send, hop on the swing, try to be all cute, and immediately flash him because I forgot I was wearing a wrap skirt with basically nothing underneath. His face went beet red and I'm just sitting there like a malfunctioning NPC, legs mid-air, skirt flying, brain buffering. He just blurts out, nice. Bro, what? And then legitimately offers to push me like nothing happened. I am mortified. But also, he kept making all these little comments the rest of the date about how spontaneous I am and how he wasn't expecting that. Same dude, same. We ended up walking for like 2 more hours and not gonna lie, the tension was palpable. Didn't kiss though, mostly because I couldn't stop thinking about my accidental park peep show. Now I'm home, overthinking everything and wondering, should I text him? Should I just let it be the chaotic meet cute it was? I don't know. Anyway, moral of the story, always check your outfit before attempting to be quirky in public. So, as a certified guy, let me translate what the guy's actions and words here are in very plain words. Basically, he was really not bothered and non-judgmental of what happened, and from the sounds of it, was very much into it. Whether or not it meant to go that way, he was definitely game for it. So basically, I think it comes down to OP. If OP is just embarrassed, but not necessarily bothered truly about, like, maybe him seeing that or that it happened, I would say almost embrace the fact that he had a clearly great time in that moment. I mean, if OP likes this guy and wants to keep going forward with things, I don't think OP has anything to apologize for or be hung up about. The guy said nice and basically complimented OP on it. Apoptosis2112 commented, bro blurted out nice. I laughed, and honestly you probably should too. He's trying to play it down, laugh at the mistake and also his choice of words, and keep on keeping on. It ain't that deep. Just text him, go on a second date if you really felt it. Gotta get out of your head and back up in that proverbial swing set. Our next story is, today I messed up by crop dusting a family at Target. So I, 30-year-old male, was at Target after hitting the gym with my girlfriend, 28-year-old female, and we had split up so I could look at Star Wars Lego while she shopped the summer stuff. I was going between aisles and ripped a nasty, silent but deadly, as a family, mom, dad, and 2 sons passed nearby down the center aisle. I had 2 protein shakes already and we both had city barbecue, particularly some spicy foods that was brought in for lunch at my job to celebrate Memorial Day before they let us leave early to start the 3-day weekend. The mother turns back to both of her sons and asks, which one of you was it? As they pass through my cloud of shame. They both feign innocence and thankfully move on as I, embarrassed, start randomly looking at anything I could possibly find in another aisle, laughing my butt off. I find my way back to my girlfriend at the sweet treats area and tell her about the silent stinknado that I left behind after crop dusting an innocent family. She's only mildly embarrassed and not at all surprised. If I were in OP's shoes, I would be mortified. I would be finding any way I could to get myself out of the general vicinity. I don't need no Star Wars Lego that badly. OP just went and turned the toy aisle into a quarantine zone for the next 5 minutes. Fizzlebutt commented, I did that once to my mother in a computer game store. My mother's in a wheelchair, and she was going up and down the aisles looking for a game to buy. I was at one end of the aisle and she at the other. I started walking towards her, and halfway up the aisle, I let it loose and it was bad. By the time she got there, a worker had walked to that area and bent down right in front of her to put a game on the shelf. His butt was right near her face because of her being in a wheelchair. It couldn't have been more perfect. I had to walk back because I didn't want to miss anything, and the smell was horrific. My mom gives me this look and points at the worker holding her nose with this horrific look on her face. I completely lost it and had to run out of the store. I was laughing so hard that I was crying. When she came out of the store, she said to me that I hope the worker is okay, which made me laugh even harder. She couldn't understand why I was laughing so hard, and I finally gave in and told her it was me. I'm sure the worker thought it was my mom. Our next story is, today I messed up. I thought I was supposed to check out tomorrow, but it was actually today. I went out early for a hike. The hostel called the police, thinking I had disappeared. This is in a German national park. I'd been staying at the hostel for a week, no car, because I'd come back super late at night the previous day and left super early in the morning today. No one working at the hostel had seen me since yesterday morning. When I got back today, they said, "Hey, why didn't you check out? We were worried. We thought you might have fallen while climbing, so we called the police. They were going to send a helicopter out for you." At first, I thought it was totally crazy of them, but then realized that it was my checkout day and that I was really meant to leave with all of my stuff in the morning. So, of course, they would freak out when they didn't see me. I would be embarrassed, but weirdly appreciative of how much care was put in here. I don't know what it says about me and my expectation of the world and the people living in it, but I feel like if it were me, they would have been like, oh, he probably just checked out early or something. And yeah, I would be at the bottom of a cliff looking like broken down Peter Griffin because I can't climb for nothing. Twiggy Fingers commented, years ago, I booked an Airbnb tiny house for a weekend to do some hiking in the mountains. Apparently, I freaked up the booking and only booked for one night when I meant to book it for 2. I hiked, then hit some breweries and had dinner on my way back to the spot to crash for the evening. When I turned up to the house, there was a couple inside getting ready for bed who were not happy to see a tall, drunkish guy at their door. The other guy came out into the yard to confront me, threatening to call the cops. After a heated exchange, I realized my mistake and managed to contact the host, who confirmed my error and told me the cleaner had put my belongings in the garage attached to the main house. I grabbed my stuff and got the freak out of there, finding a nearby motel to stay for the night. Every time I think of that story, I thank my lucky stars that nothing too bad happened that night. It was very embarrassing to say the least. Our next story is, today I messed up, removed the film on my TV, turns out I wasn't supposed to remove it. My TV has always had a bit of an issue where no matter how I tried to clean it, it always seemed to be a bit dirty. The streaks from greasy fingerprints seemed to linger on it, and I was really annoyed by it. So today, I tried to do something about it. I noticed that there was a film on the TV that appeared to be possible to remove. No guesses, but I wasn't supposed to do it, and now there's an ugly bubble in my TV. It's barely 2 months old, and I freaked up so bad, I don't even know what to do right now. It's under warranty, but I'm pretty sure I voided my warranty. I will probably call customer service tomorrow, but I just needed to vent somewhere for this massive freak up. Thanks. Unless it's that a very initial plastic peel, you should not be peeling anything off of your TV, and especially when it comes to cleaning, you should not use anything stronger than water, microfiber cloth, or a lens wipe. I always just cringe out there when I see those products that are TV cleaning solution in a spray bottle. The best way to keep the TV clean is just to never put your prints on it to begin with. Mayonnaise commented, you've probably also been freaking up by cleaning it wrong. That's why you continue to see smudges. You're most likely wearing off the protective coating of said film. What have you been using? Our next story is, today I messed up by cupping my forehead. I should never go along with what my boyfriend says ever again. This happened a couple of days ago. My boyfriend and I were at the store this weekend and saw cupping therapy devices, and he wanted to get them to try them out. We used them on our backs and the rest of our bodies. I think they helped when he had the great idea to cup his forehead and mine. I wrongly assumed that this would last 24 hours max. We were both sorely mistaken. Now, he and I have been sporting huge red circular hickeys on our foreheads for almost 3 days now. His is worse, thankfully, but mine isn't much better. I put foundation on both of our spots, but it still looks pretty rough. My coworkers think it's hilarious. It is. My boyfriend had an interview coming up soon, too. Overall, I don't recommend cupping your forehead. The rest of the circles disappeared from our bodies within 24 hours, though. You know, I feel like I recall hearing a very similar story at one point or another, but it wasn't the ancient cupping massage therapy method that caused it. It was one of those mounting devices that you stick onto a wall that somebody had the bright idea of sticking right on their forehead. Traditional Award 286 commented, OP, for a more effective cover-up while it's in the red stage, apply your makeup in this order. Use a green tinted concealer, then use regular concealer and then foundation. Follow up with powder and a setting spray. When it turns purpley, use an orange or peach instead of a green. All dependent in your skin tone, of course. You need to cancel out the color or it'll always look rough and show up through the makeup. I have fair to medium complexion, and I find the peach is amazing for dark circles. You can find both at Walmart for $4 each. I use the e.l.f. brand and it blends nicely and it's cheap. You can apply in thin layers depending on the coverage, but it'll help it look more like skin and not weird makeup patch. Don't worry about it looking like too much makeup, it'll have the opposite effect. Our next story is, today I messed up by trying to act fancy at a lobster dinner and accidentally assaulting my boss's wife with seafood. So this happened 2 days ago and I'm still not sure if I'm employed or about to be a meme. I've been working my butt off trying to land this job in a company I really admire, like interviews, follow-ups, little thank you emails that took me 40 minutes to write just to sound casual. Finally, I get the call. I'm in. Job offer signed. They say, hey, come meet the team. We're going out for a welcome dinner. Cool. Chill. I can do this. I've been dreaming of this. We get to this really fancy seafood place. I'm trying to act like I eat here all the time, even though the fanciest thing I've eaten this year is microwave risotto. Everyone starts ordering lobster, like one after another, and I've never had lobster in my life, but I panic and go, yeah, same. I'll have the lobster too. So already I'm in deep. Food arrives, everyone's got tools, like actual plier things and pokey sticks and some kind of seafood guillotine. I'm trying to play it cool, watching how other people do it while pretending I totally know what I'm doing. I also said no to the bib they offered me like an absolute alpha idiot. So I go in, I'm cracking and twisting and sweating, and then I go for the big claw. I grab the cracker thing and I squeeze it like I'm trying to break into a safe. The claw explodes. Not like a little pop, like full-on seafood grenade. This massive chunk of lobster meat flies out in slow motion and lands right in my new boss's wife's wine glass. Merlot everywhere. It splashes up and hits her face and her white blouse and just soaks everything. Silence, like dead, horrifying silence. I freeze, like I've just committed a seafood hate crime. I mumble, oh my god, I'm so sorry, and I try to dab at her blouse with a napkin, which, pro tip, don't do that. She just looks at me for like 3 seconds, then bursts out laughing. Turns out she's always hated lobster and was low-key terrified of it the whole dinner. She said she felt like it finally fought back. My boss starts laughing too, whole table joins in, I'm red as the lobster. Next day, she posts it on Instagram with the caption, I got clawed by lobster guy, and guess what? It kinda blew up. The company's internal Slack made a welcome meme out of me with the caption, no clawbacks on this hire. HR sent me a lobster bib with my name on it. I start next week. Apparently I made an impression. Honestly, it sounds like OP screwing up so royally actually like humanized them to a degree that many people would be envious of. I mean, you know, it certainly comes down to how humorous and lighthearted the people are, because not every boss and boss's wife are going to take that assault with a lobster and a merlot very kindly. I mean, it almost reads like a comedy movie. The slow motion no as the lobster goes flying right at the boss's wife and into her glass. The merlot splashes on their white blouse. I'm sorry. And then you can hear that ragey bass, that nervousness sound building, and then they burst out laughing and it's like a big crowd thing. That nervous, yeah, it was funny, right? Otter Mayhem commented, hilarious and relatable. I showed my appreciation for baby back ribs one time at a work get-together for my ex-husband's work, along with another wife. The owner came up to us and told us how happy it made him to see someone enjoying the food instead of nibbling politely. I was embarrassed, but my ex made a huge deal about how much I embarrassed him. He apologized to the boss, and this was the owner of the company. The owner told him he was delighted we were enjoying ourselves and politely put him in his place. I still love that man, and he's dead now and no longer with the ex. Good luck in your new job, and I'm glad they have a sense of humor. Our next story is, today I messed up by basically telling a girl that I'm a liar who's going to gaslight her. Crazy title, I know. This freak up actually happened a couple of months ago, but the oh crap realization didn't hit me until today. So I, 20-year-old male, was in the talking stage with a girl. I liked her, she was really funny, had great energy, super sweet, and was an awesome texter. It was going pretty well, honestly. Loads of late night texting, real conversations, some flirting, you know the drill. A couple days in, we're texting at night and the conversation turns toward dating in general. We talk for a while, convo's flowing very well, and then she says something like, wait, haha, I can't believe I forgot to ask you, what are your green and red flags? Simple enough, right? For some reason, I assumed she meant what green and red flags do you look for in other people? So I answered confidently, green flags, humor, communication, trust. Red flags, dishonesty, emotional manipulation. I figured maybe it comes off a bit strong and the red flags are pretty plain and obvious, but I couldn't really come up with anything else and we've been texting for a while. Things are going well, whatever. She goes silent for a minute or so and then hits me with, "You're dishonest?" At the time I was like, what is she even talking about? I was really confused, said so, and she kind of tried to explain, but eventually said never mind and we moved on. Convo felt a bit dry for a bit, but eventually it was right back to normal. At the time, I figured it was some sort of weird miscommunication and didn't think much of it. Anyways, the whole thing ended up fizzling out not long after for other reasons, namely that she seemed to freak out if I asked her out or when things ever got a bit too real for her. Disappointing, but I moved on. Whatever. Crap happens. Not the point of the post anyways. I had basically forgotten all about her when I came across an Instagram reel today. It was basically a couple talking to each other about their own green and red flags, when all of a sudden, it hit me. The whole thing came rushing back and I realized that I literally told this girl that I was an emotionally manipulative liar. Looking back, it's a funny story, but I'm still pretty embarrassed. A part of me thinks that she probably figured out what I actually meant at the time and let it go. But another part of me says that she probably just remembers me as the guy who said that he was going to lie and gaslight her, because even when she called me out on it, I didn't realize what I had done. I don't think I've ever heard of someone fumbling this hard. Oops. Edit, I feel like it was clear in the post, but I'm going to reiterate that this freak up wasn't the reason things didn't work out. For some reason, everyone's assuming that things ended immediately afterwards and saying that I dodged a bullet and even calling her unstable. Even though things didn't work out between us, I didn't make this post because I wanted people to pile on her. I was just sharing a funny story. Seriously, chill. I definitely in no way blame her for kind of getting hung up and confused, and I'm not gonna lie, I would feel like even though I understood what OP actually meant by it, for some reason the connotation would still stick in the back of my mind. I feel like that's just like a nasty quirk of online conversations. Like, if that conversation had happened over the phone or in a voice chat or something, I feel like it would be instantly like squashed and repelled. But because it was in text where you don't have that human interaction, it kind of just sticks in the back of your mind a little bit. Like, now for some reason I just feel like this guy is an emotional manipulative gaslighter. Oro Morpheus commented, 100% her fault. The question, what are your green and red flags, refers to what you look for in others, not yourself. She meant to ask, what are your strengths and weaknesses as a partner? No one refers to their own strengths and weaknesses as green or red flags that they fly for others to see. Our next story is, today I messed up by dropping peppermint oil in the bath. Hi all, I saw a post on here about someone accidentally getting some icy hot by their junk, and it reminded me of my own freak up. Once upon a time, I was down with baths. I loved baths. A few years ago, we had a hot summer and I was crispy sunburnt. Previously, I was gifted some bath oils and thought it would be a great idea to use peppermint oil in the bath to cool down my skin. Peppermint makes sunburn feel cool, Big Brain thought. Big Brain is stupid and actually little. I wasn't careful and dropped the bottle in the tub. It was pure torture. Like, freak, dude. The peppermint latched onto all of my skin after spreading in the water and would burn and freeze it into an icy blast of pain if I sat still in the water. But if I moved, the hot or warm water felt like fire because of the oil. There was no middle ground, no relief. I tried to sit through it thinking it would just sting for a moment. Oh, but I was so wrong. I never imagined I could suffer pure torture while smelling like a peppermint patty bliss. I couldn't take it anymore. After draining the tub, I had to shower it off. That was a biggerer, betterer brain idea, aka, no, it wasn't. I could only get cold water because I used up the hot water for the bath. My sunburn made it hard to get the oil off, and my nerves were overwhelmed and I could barely touch my skin. It felt like it was all going to slough off me at any moment. Every touch sent shockwaves I could feel buzz through my teeth. I was huffing and puffing like I ran a marathon and crying through it all, and I was thankful that the one brain cell who wasn't still on vacation hung back to give me the foresight to not touch my face and eyes to wipe away the tears. I couldn't use a towel. I refused to touch anything else. I committed myself to just air drying and laying down on the bed and not moving at all for a bit to recover. I think the brain cell took a coffee break. To make a margarita of a wound, I hobbled out of the bathroom into a room blasting AC after being immersed in peppermint oil water with a sunburn akin to Larry the Lobster. So, I'm no expert. In fact, I think I operate off of gut instinct probably more than I'd like to admit, but I just don't think my brain would equate peppermint to being the solution to a sunburn or a burn feeling sensation. I mean, when I think of peppermint, I think of icy burn in and of itself. Maybe me in a past life had a terrible peppermint incident like OP did or something, but I don't think I would have tried it. I would have gone and bought some like aloe vera product and prayed it worked. Grandma commented, a few years ago, I got a sunburn and decided to forego my own advice to use the aloe plants in my yard, which I've always used for burns, and I bought sunburn remedies we usually just sell to tourists instead. Specifically, I bought sunburn gel and sunburn spray. However, I learned in a single application that mixing the two created a chemical reaction, resulting in chemical burns on my already sunburned skin. I had to run the shower to stop the reaction, and then went back to using the aloe plants in the yard. Our next story is, today I messed up. I went to Costco to return something. I think I freaked up. I had to return something to Costco and then come home, but once I returned the item, I had to grab a $1.50 hot dog and soda. Then I decided to eat the hot dog and walk around the store. As many of you know, you can't just go to Costco and not buy anything, and I think this is the point where I freaked up. I started to walk around and they had everything that I needed. At least that's how my brain is now wired to think. I had to go get a cart. My brain was running like crazy. Did I need a new hose and hose reel? No, but did the price look great? 100%. Did the kids need a dragon water slide? 100% no, but danged if I'm not going to have the dragon water slide. Did I need 10 pounds of short ribs? Nope. I still have some in the freezer. Oh, but I got them. For those that haven't been to Costco, you get swept up in a sense of euphoria while walking around and looking in bulk items and slightly cheaper items around the middle. It's fantastic. I was supposed to be returning one item and coming home, and I ended up spending a few $100s I didn't need to spend. I didn't realize I freaked up until I got home and my wife gave me the "what" look. Also, as in typing this, I think I freaked up again. The dragon water slide is going to unalive my lawn when I set it up, so yeah, I freaked up. I will not learn from this, but I'll try to be better. I'm struggling to figure out if my response should be something about how, like, this seems like a singular OP has a problem kind of issue, or if this is just like the doomsday fog of late-stage capitalism rolling in. Welcome to Costco, I love you. Borkoff commented, I have the opposite reaction. I get super uncomfortable walking around a Sam's or Costco. It makes me feel really weird, like I'm in some kind of strange devotion to consumerism or something. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I get anxious in those places. Our next story is, today I messed up by letting my boyfriend buy fur scrapes online. So whenever I do buy fur, I travel to Canada and buy from a man that gets furs from roadkill and uses the money to feed his family. I make sure to respect the furs and handle them with care when I craft with them. Well, my boyfriend wanted to learn how to craft as well and bought some leftover fur scrapes for his LARP projects. He went online and saw an advertisement for some fur scrapes, thinking it was just small cuts or leftover furs. Well, the box arrived and he excitedly opened it. He had me pull them out one by one since he was a little scared it was dirty. He has a phobia of things that can be potentially dirty. Well, when I opened up the box, I pulled the first scrap out and it was a little paw, which I thought was neat. After that, all the scraps just ended up being beaver faces. I kept pulling them out one by one and his expression was becoming more horrified each time. He started to cry and I had to comfort him, though I thought it was kind of funny. Now, I will admit, I am the last person that would know anything about ordering fur scrapes or scraps, I'm assuming, online. To clarify, OP spelt it S-C-R-A-P-E-S, scrapes. I just now realized I think what they were actually trying to say. But like, if you're ordering fur scraps, is it like one of those like eBay like lot mystery item rewards? You know, growing up I used to be a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh cards and whatnot. I'm assuming they do it with Pokemon cards too. The like 300 card lot, maybe potential major winner cards in here. When in reality, you almost always end up with 300 Magikarps. Or I guess in this case, a countless amount of beaver faces. Our next story is, today I messed up by using my cat to test if my girlfriend was cheating. Obligatory, this didn't happen today. It was about 3 weeks ago, but the emotional damage is still fresh. So for context, I, 28-year-old male, have been with my girlfriend, 26-year-old female, for almost 2 years. Things have been great. She's funny, smart, gorgeous, etc. But I started noticing some weird behavior. She started locking her phone, being evasive about our weekend plans, and one time she smelled like men's cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Naturally, I started spiraling. Now here's where it gets unhinged. We have a cat, Pickles. Pickles is obsessed with my girlfriend, follows her everywhere, sleeps on her side of the bed, cries when she leaves. So I came up with what I thought was a brilliant plan. I put a tiny Bluetooth tracker, Tile, in Pickles' collar. My thinking? If she was going to some guy's house, maybe Pickles would follow her in and I could prove it. You see where this is going. Saturday rolls around and she says she's going to a girls' brunch and maybe shopping. I pretend I'm going to my brother's place, but I'm actually at home, glued to the Tile app like I'm in a spy movie. Pickles' location stops in a random residential neighborhood 20 minutes away. I wait 15 minutes, still there. So I grab my keys and drive there like a total psycho. When I get there, I don't see her car. I knock on the door, an old woman answers. I say, hi, I think my girlfriend is here? The old lady replied, I have no idea who that is. Then I hear it, meow. Pickles sitting on her dang couch looking smug. Turns out, Pickles followed a stray cat out the window. We sometimes leave it open a crack for him, and the old lady saw him and took him in, thinking he was lost. So I have to explain all of this without sounding like an emotionally unstable tracker-using weirdo. I think I said something like, oh, he must have wandered, I love my cat a lot, and then noped out of there with Pickles under my arm. When I get home, my girlfriend was actually out with her friends and she showed me pics from a brunch and a movie ticket stub. No funny business. Then she asked, "Why does pickle smell like lavender and Werther's Originals?" Anybody else out there feel like this relationship is just doomed? I mean, let's be honest, when you get to the point of putting trackers in the pets, hoping that you're going to catch them going to some other person's house for a bang sesh or whatever, hasn't the relationship entered a near unrecoverable state at that point? For whatever reason, OP doesn't trust their partner and they're willing to go way behind their back to try to confirm what they're fearing. How do you ever go back to just being happy and trusting? Spread Illustrious 558 commented, "You didn't catch a cheater, you caught yourself being feral. Spy movie energy, cat edition. Congrats. Now Pickles has a side piece and your girlfriend has doubts. Everyone's winning but you." Our next story is, "Today I messed up, dumped my first girlfriend for a burrito." Well, not exactly today, but I still messed up. Back in elementary school, I had a girlfriend, let's call her Joy. Me and Joy did the normal stuff like giving Valentine's Day cards, meeting up after school to spend 5 minutes talking and cheek kisses, etc. We were young, and I was dumb. Being a new kid to the school with a brand new first girlfriend, I felt like the crap. Gotta love young minds. At lunches, I was a fat butt, always asked my friends and other people who never ate their lunch if I can have it, killed 5 chocolate milk cartons in minutes. My favorite meal of all time was the burritos they sold at lunch in the cafeteria. Not hard like a microwave burrito, but not at all like prestige and bougie. But I never straight up took anyone's food. I would always ask if they're not gonna touch it. My friend Mark knows I'll dang near do anything for food and waited for me to ask. At the time, I didn't know it, but he had a crush on her as well. When I walked up and asked, "Do you want your burrito?" he replied, "You can, but you have to dump Joy in front of the entire lunchroom and tell them that you're doing it for a burrito." Looking back now, that was so stupid. The only thing I knew about love was LL Cool J and Akon. I stood up, raised my chest with all confidence and announced, "Joy, I'm breaking up with you for this burrito." Everyone was shocked, but dang, I loved that burrito. Sadly, I never heard of an R&B track about loving a burrito, but if there ever was, it would be Not Safe for Work how I felt about it. I broke her heart and tried so hard to make it up to her because dumb young me thought she would get the joke and everything will be okay. We tried to date again later on, but we eventually found a kind of laugh and move on. We've gotten older, wiser, and are still really tight friends. I still regret what I did to her when I was young, but now I'm glad we're still friends. Unless you have a burrito willing to trade. You know, I can't believe that OP is at least a few years removed from this event, I hope. And they have the gall to seriously write, "We tried to date later on down the road, it just didn't work out." And OP's talking about elementary school. OP's out here 7, 8, 10 years old tops being like, "Yeah, my fling didn't work out, we tried again, but we just couldn't make it work." Could you imagine if it did work out? They graduate high school and they're like, "Yeah, we've been together for 15 years. Started dating in the 3rd grade over our shared love of school lunch burritos." Spread Illustrious commented, "You didn't dump her, you gifted Mark his shot and secured lunch. Bold move." LL Cool J would understand. Honestly, young you had priorities straight. Love fades, burritos don't. OP responded commenting, "Mark missed the first time." In high school, they dated and come to find out he was abusive. Oh, and he was on the run years after school for abuse of an infant. Mark sucks. Freak Mark. Our next story is, "Today I messed up by trying to impress my niece and becoming a party villain." So my sister asked me to help with my niece's 6th birthday party because I'm good with kids. Read, "I once kept her toddler occupied for an hour by pretending to be a malfunctioning robot. My job? Handle the piñata. Seems simple enough. I should have known I was doomed when I pulled out this over-engineered unicorn piñata that weighed more than my will to live. That dang thing was bedazzled within an inch of its life and had this smug glitter face that just screamed, 'You're not ready for me.' But I'm a grown man, how hard could it be?" The backyard setup was already sketchy. My sister's tree is basically just a tall stick with delusions of grandeur, and the only rope I could find was this sad, frayed piece of twine that looked like it had been chewed on by depressed gerbils. But time was ticking, the kids were getting restless, and my brother-in-law was giving me that hurry up look that always makes me screw up worse. I gave the twine one experimental tug. it held. Sort of. Good enough for government work, right? Handed the bat to little Timmy, not his real name, but he looked like a Timmy, and stepped back like the proud idiot I was. What happened next was like watching a slow-motion train wreck where the train was filled with sugar-crazed kindergartners. The first swing connected and the twine immediately snapped with this pathetic little ping sound I'll hear in my nightmares. The unicorn became a ballistic missile, took out the juice box tower like it had a personal vendetta, belly flopped directly into the center of the 3-tiered birthday cake, which exploded in a buttercream supernova, and finally came to rest in the middle of my sister's precious rose bushes. The impact split it open violently, spraying candy everywhere while the unicorn's decapitated head rolled under the grill. The silence was deafening. Then chaos. One kid started screaming that we killed it. Another asked if this meant no candy. My niece just stood there with this look of profound betrayal like I'd personally kicked her puppy. My sister's eyes started twitching in that way that usually precedes legal action. Turns out piñatas are no joke. I spent the rest of the party picking glitter out of the roses while being side-eyed by small children. Had to make an emergency Walmart cake run. Their frosting tastes like regret. Now I'm out $150 for cake and bush repairs. My niece keeps drawing pictures of Uncle Redacted, the unicorn killer, and I'm pretty sure my sister is drafting my obituary. Moral of the story, next time I'm buying one of those pull string piñatas, or just handing out candy from a safe distance, like another state. Now, I mean this with all sincerity, but piñatas really aren't like a joke. I firmly believe that you must come to respect the piñata and the procedures in which you proceed to bash it. Basically, if the procedure is handing a kid a bat and blindfolding them, you better make sure your ducks are in such a good row that the least possible damage is possible. Our next story is, today I messed up by getting rid of a houseplant. Yesterday I was cleaning up my little greenhouse. A while back, I put a rather sorry-looking Euphorbia leucanora there. Plant lovers will know where this is going already. I decided to take the plant out of its pot and put it on the compost pile, and so I did. In the process, I got a lot of sap on my hand. I know the sap is supposed to be highly irritant, although I never had any issues, even though I've owned these plants for years. I decided it would be smart to rinse it all off though, and so I did. About 4 hours later, I was at the cinema with the wife and kids. I noticed a slight burning sensation on my balls. I didn't think much of it, but it got more and more intense as the movie progressed. After the movie, we had a dinner reservation. When we entered the restaurant, I went to the toilet where I was greeted by balls that were bright red on one side. A bit worried, I decided to keep my predicament to myself, but as time progressed, not only did the intensity of the pain increase, the affected area also grew and now included a neighboring body part. At a moment where the kids were occupied, I quickly told my wife, who said, jokingly accusing me of having an STD. We somewhat hastily left the restaurant, and the pain still kept increasing. The first thing I did after coming home was take a diclofenac I had left over. I generally don't take pain medication unless I'm truly in a pickle. In the meantime, my wife was suggesting I go and visit the emergency room. After getting the kids to bed, we had a chat about what could possibly cause this. Then it hit me. The euphorbia. After rinsing my hand, I continued to move stuff around in the greenhouse. I must have gotten more sap on my hands, and when taking a wee, I must have transferred some right onto the affected area. Knowing the cause was a bit of a relief, and I decided to see what a cold shower would do. It worked wonders. The cold made the pain disappear almost completely, so I spent the next 3 hours on the sofa, alternating between a variety of very cold ice packs. When it was time to go to bed, I still couldn't go without cooling, and my wife, after some Googling, suggested antihistamine and cortisone. I happily obliged, and I actually had a good sleep. This morning, things were still very sore, but much more manageable. Both my Richard and my balls are covered in blisters, though 1 out of 10 would not recommend. Right, yeah, well, we believe you, OP. When you were taking a wee, must have transferred then. You know, the classic wee procedure of starting with the downstairs and then where the actual wee happens. You know what, I would like to issue an apology for my comments just now. Our next story is, today I messed up by pocket dialing my detailer. My boss has a car detailer who comes to our place of employment and details her car in the parking lot. She's been using him for 20 years. I asked for his contact information and arranged to have him detail my car during my shift last week. Everything seemed to go well and he did a good job. When I was leaving for a break, I noticed he left a piece of his equipment next to my car, so I called him and we decided I would leave it next to the back door for him to pick up. A few minutes later, I noticed I didn't have my windshield reflectors and called again to arrange getting them. These were our only 2 phone conversations since everything else was through text. I never pocket dial people, it just doesn't happen. However, about 2 days later, I accidentally pocket dialed him. I quickly realized and hung up. He texted shortly afterwards and I explained it was a mistake. The very next day, I somehow did it again. I again realized quickly and hung up and immediately texted explaining it was another pocket dial. This time, he responded with a blushing smiley face. The following day, he decided to send me the following text. Reminder, this guy doesn't know me or anything about me other than where I work and my car. Modern woman who carries on her shoulders the oppression of authoritarian men and deified men, who doesn't learn that you command all their power and control their weaknesses. Your tears and makeup are powerful weapons, without forgetting your voluptuous charms. Divine power since your creation, that you are the chosen one to create life. You don't seek your soulmate because you were born with a poor sixth sense of the man who blames you for having lost his paradise. Why did anyone know that you carried the mystery hidden by? Immortal figures have blamed you of being the tragedy of the deified man. It's time, don't you believe, to show your truth and power, that your beautiful face is not the body of a goddess, of man's pleasure and character of self-denial. Show the world your power to save, our divine creation and humanity, RG. Now I need to find someone else to detail my car, and I dread him being there to detail hers in the future. Now, the instincts in me are saying, tell your boss that this guy is very weird, creepy seeming, but I gotta be honest, I haven't heard of too many bosses being described as having a detailer come out to the location and detailing their car in the parking lot, so I don't even know if this boss would be the kind of person that would take that kind of concern all too seriously. Our next story is, today I messed up, accidentally threatened kidnapping. This happened a few years back and it still haunts me. I went to a local bar and grill. As the hostess seated me, she asked if she could get me a drink. I said yes, and she asked for my ID. This is where I freaked up. I should note, I'm 6'6" and a big guy with a beard. She was a petite 21-year-old. I pulled out my ID. It was a horrid pic. I have on an orange shirt and I was too tall for the camera, so I'm looking down at a weird angle. I looked like a creeper, and in the orange shirt, a convict. So as I hand her my ID, I say, "Laugh it up, it makes me look like a serial predator." In good humor, she says, "Well, mine makes me look like a 14-year-old girl." "Well, that's perfect," I say. "They'll have pictures to use for both of us when you go missing." One of those moments where I was trying to be funny, but as soon as the words were out of my mouth, I instantly wanted them back. She gave a very awkward laugh and I never saw her again. Didn't get that drink I ordered either. You know, I'm surprised of 2 things in the story. 1, that OP never got served their drink, and 2, OP never got served a request to leave the premises. You know, we just prefer serving customers who don't talk about kidnapping someone who looks like a 14-year-old. Wonderful Rule 2515 commented, "I would be terrified if someone I didn't know made a joke like that to me, but it's pretty fun hearing how the other side of these conversations can sometimes play out innocently." Ocean Spice commented, "Yeah, a guy once joked about me being short by pondering over if he'd be able to fit my body inside a suitcase. Wasn't comfortable talking to him anymore after that." Our next story is, today I messed up by trying to save money on a haircut and now I look like a background character in a video game. I've been trying really hard to stick to a budget lately. Aside some sports bets on steak, I try to budget everything else, like actually tracking what I spend, cutting back on dumb little purchases, saying no to going out, all that. One of the things I decided to cut was the $30 I usually spend on getting a simple haircut. I figured, how hard can it be? It's just clippers and some blending, right? So I buy this $20 haircut kit off of Amazon, watch like 3 YouTube videos and tell myself, you got this. I go into my bathroom, clipper in hand, and within 5 minutes I've somehow managed to give myself a crooked undercut that looks like I lost a bet. I try to fix it. Big mistake. Now I've got one side that's way shorter than the other and some weird patch in the back I can't even see, but I felt it go wrong. I even called my roommate in for backup, and the second he looked at me, he just went, "Oh no." I had to wear a beanie all day in 80-degree weather because I had a Zoom call and couldn't risk showing up like a rejected Sims character. So yeah, today I freaked up by trying to save money, and now I either have to pay someone more to fix this mess or just embrace looking like an NPC until it grows out. 10 out of 10 would not recommend DIY haircuts unless you hate yourself a little. You know, growing up, my parents always did the haircuts for me. I never went to a barber or even like the quick cuts or super cuts or whatever. And I'm gonna be honest, I actually thought they were pretty decent, they weren't too bad. Sometimes they were a little shorter than I would prefer, but, simple and clean. But then I saw how even like a simple cut from Leica Supercuts looks, and the DIY home haircuts just pale in comparison. The blending, the lining, like OP had struggles with, the fact that you can get the back of your head reliably trimmed up. I tend to think it's usually worth it even if it's just a cheapo one. Grim1757 commented, "During COVID, money got tight, and the girl who cuts my hair had told me on several occasions I should just cut it myself, as I have the type of hair that's pretty simple to cut." To be honest, I was kinda fed up of paying $30 for a 15-minute haircut. One day I just decided I'm going to give this a shot. I have clippers that have a dial for setting the depth, 1 to 14, and I just set it to 8 and run it all over my head. I don't try and do any fades or anything, just all the same length. Been doing it for 3 years now, and as long as I do it every 2 weeks, it works great. If I go too long, it gets hard to get it all even before the clippers run out of juice. I think the key is just stay simple, one length all over until you're a bit used to it. Our next story is, today I messed up and inadvertently told a stranger I'm traveling alone. So today I'm 42-year-old female, staying about 3 hours from home on a work trip, and the hotel I booked last minute after checking reviews that said it was good was really not. The room smells like athlete's foot funk. It's literally the only room and I had to prepay. Okay, cool. There's a clean bed and I'm tired. So I run to Walmart to grab a couple of things, mainly being Febreze, and when I come back and park at the hotel, there's now a random case of Bud Light and a travel mug beside my car when there wasn't when I had left. So I assume it's someone in their car, no big deal, until when the dude says, "Oh, hey, I hope I didn't startle ya," as he walks out from beside his tall butt truck, and in return, my idiot decides to blurt out, "Dang, and here I thought I was gonna make off with a free case of beer." Cue the laughter from the dude, and he hands one my direction and asks if I want one, so my idiotic brain decides to accept the beer. Insert face palm here. My brain was also simultaneously screaming, "What the freak?" as I casually said, "Thanks bro, made my night." Like what? I'm the most introverted, and this is the best that my brain soup can come up with. And literally, I'm slinging lines like I've never experienced crippling social anxiety. So I don't think anything of it, just some random dude sharing beer. Then, as I turn the corner as we go into the main entry, he turns back and asks, "Oh, I suppose I should give you 2. Now, if everything I had already said out of character was bizarrely out of character, my brain had one more in me that was cosmically out of character. Nah, 1 will put me out like a light. Thanks again, man. Now, when I shut the door to my room behind me, I didn't think anything of it. Popped it and had a little bit. About 3 swigs in, it hit me. He was offering 2 for if I had a man along. While I know that this dude is most likely harmless, I'm laying here awake making a post on Reddit, finding it hard to shake that weird feeling that comes with knowing some rando 3 doors down knows I'm all alone at a dead-end road motel on a bay. I suppose I've watched way too many horror flicks, but I still can't help but feel like an idiot from my brain awkwardly speaking out of turn from nervousness. I also can't help but feel like maybe this isn't the best hotel to sleep with earplugs in as well. It's a family-run joint in the boonies of a popular yet rural tourist city. Could use a lot of upkeep, especially on the quality of door locks. Edit, I'm alive. I was reading through the comments and want to throw it out there that I know that he was 99.9% harmless. It was just the weird anxiety-fueled conversation and the awkwardness, followed by the realization that I could have been putting myself in an unsafe situation that was my freak-up. If I were in another city or state, there could be a real possibility of nefarious things. Yes, I agree that it is crap that women in the US are always having to think ahead to how the simple harmless interactions we have could have the possibility of a bad ending. I weirded myself out with anxiety by overthinking it and probably did a poor job of conveying that I knew I wasn't in danger, just the thought that I could have been endangering myself was a huge facepalm. If dude read my post, all things considered about the whole interaction, I'm sure he would have a hearty laugh over the whole thing. Heck, I managed to get a beer from a stranger lugging a 24-pack around at a beachside resort motel. I probably could have grunted and pointed and he would have given me one. All in all, it was an awkward thing to experience, and even though it was more wholesome than not, I appreciated the beer but will definitely remember to decline in the future. Thanks to all those concerned for my safety and understood where I felt the freak-up was in the story. Could never be too safe, right? Look, I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably like the lowest on the list of people who have nefarious acts in mind with Target, but even I would still be like, no thanks. Like, I would be just focused on trying to get to my room as quickly as possible and hopefully without them seeing which one it is. Cromman and Robin commented, not accepting the second beer doesn't just leave the conclusion that you're traveling alone. It could mean the other you're traveling with just doesn't like Bud Light, or simply that you just misunderstood what he was saying. Either way, if he went out of his way to offer you 2 beers, I doubt he's some kind of psycho. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy story of how a Redditor messed up, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.